I recently caught up with my friend, Justin Moore. Justin is a sponsorship coach. His business, Creator Wizard, helps you find and negotiate your dream sponsorships. For the last couple of years, Justin has been teaching everything he knows through a live cohort-based course called Brand Deal Wizard. Lately, he's been working with more creators one-on-one, but at the same time, he wants to scale his course too. So Justin reached out to me to talk about redesigning his product offers.
So I'm very confused, Jay, and maybe this is therapy. I need your counsel. I'm very confused about what I would call my offer ladder, or my value ladder, right? Where all the different ways in which people can pay me, basically, right? Or all the different ways in which I'm serving my customers. The current structure is as follows. I have my on-demand course, which is the very first entry point into my business, I would say. It's called Gifted to Paid. It's $500 currently. And the persona of the creators that would be best suited for that program are they're aspiring or they're kind of early stage creators who are getting a bunch of free stuff and trying to figure out how to convert those into paid partnerships, right? And so that's an on-demand course. It's 90 minutes, basically. You can binge it. And so that was something that was always missing from my business. I never had anything kind of evergreen like that. And so launched that about 2 months ago. It's done fairly well. I would say probably made around $30,000 total. I made $19,000 in the launch. And then since then around 11 grand, so something around there, right? The next rung up on the offer ladder is my one-on-one coaching, which is $1,000 an hour. And this is where creators, are having, I just did one yesterday, a very large creator negotiating a 6-figure partnership. And they don't have a manager and they're just stuck. They're like, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know how much to charge. Help me. Right. So I parachuted in, I kind of got context of where they're at in the negotiation and help them design some packages and kind of the strategy of where to move from there. And so that's kind of the one-on-one approach. Then the next one up is my Brand Deal Wizard cohort-based course, which is $3,000 currently, or there's like an investment plan, but that is like what I would call my signature offer, where I've got, it's a 4-week program. It's extremely intense. It's live there. It's capped at 50 people. And like, that was the first thing I ever came out with. It's the most social proof I have, tons of testimonials. I definitely feel like I have course market fit on that. The next, I guess the last,
I didn't even know there was another one.
The next rung is what I call my Wizards Guild, which is the ongoing asynchronous coaching.
Okay. So
this was a response to alumni, essentially people who have graduated the program that said, hey, what's next? We need more support ongoing. It's $1,000 a month. Every Tuesday and Thursday, you can ask me and other coaches on my team. Right now, it's just me and Dee, my community manager, who's also a coach. Any questions about your ongoing deals that you're negotiating, pitching, sponsorship strategy, all that stuff too. And so really interestingly is I have this thesis that there is this gap between having a manager who's taking 20% of every deal and having no one, right? And there's something in between where it's like, it's completely objective. We're not financially incentivized whether you get the deal or not. And we were just going to get out for your best interests. It's 12 grand a year, basically, if you want to do it for the whole year, and we're in your pocket. And so I currently have 3 people in that program and it's been amazing, dude. Like the more I do it, the more I work with those creators, the more I feel like that should be the main offer. Like the ongoing coaching feels like it's driving the most impact. The 4-week course is great. And some of the other on-demand stuff is great. But like, even people who have gone through my course, like they are constantly pinging me and like, okay, this new thing came in. I don't know what to do. Right. So it's like, oh, this new other esoteric, the thing the brand is asking for, or the agency, I just don't know how to price this. Right. And so like the dynamics of every deal is basically different. And so creators, even though they have the foundation of like how to work with sponsors and all that stuff too, it feels as though they still need a backstop or insurance somehow. And if you're making 6 figures, a year doing this or more, which, all the people in this like kind of ongoing program are, it's kind of a no-brainer. All this to say, I'm thinking about like blowing up the offer ladder and wrapping the CDC, the cohort-based course, and the intro Gifted to Paid course into one complete on-demand evergreen course, creating a kick-ass webinar, starting to run ads to it, and creating a, kind of funnel where that is kind of the intro. Brian Harris has this model where he calls it the sum pricing model, right? The setup plus monthly. And so looking at the the course as kind of the setup. You get all the foundational knowledge, you're trained basically. And then it's like, okay, if you want to graduate onto the coaching, here you go, right? I don't know if it's the right decision. I've talked to so many people and everyone is telling me different things. Like, don't do that. Go higher ticket. Your course shouldn't be 3. It should be 7 or it should be 5 or no, you actually should go lower and like consolidate it and make it 2K and like, run the webinars and like, I just don't know what to do, man. Help me, Jay. You're my only hope.
All I have is questions. I just want to dig into it more. How much do you enjoy launching the CBC every however many months? Do you like the launch game?
So the launch game was very stressful for a long time, primarily because I felt like I didn't have all the pillars in place of or SOPs and processes in place to do it in a organized fashion. It always felt as it was like going down to the wire every time. And I did not like that. Over the last 2 cohorts though, I'm coming up on cohort 8 in 2 weeks here. It feels like we're kind of on autopilot now. I'm not stressed at all. Everything's done. All the copywriting, sales page, emails, everything is basic. All the collateral that I teach, the processes are dialed into a point now where it's like, I could do it in my sleep, basically. Not in my sleep, but it's just like night and day from cohort 1, basically. And it sucks. It not sucks, but it's tricky because there is so much magic in the live format, right? Just like being able to like respond to people directly and office hours and guest speakers and like, all that stuff. It is pretty magical. I agree. And so I still want to find a way to have that live element in these other things that I'm doing. But yeah, the prospect of having something that's like on demand, I can do webinars and maybe eventually transition the webinar into something evergreen. That sounds pretty appealing to me, but I just don't know any other way because I haven't really done this for very long.
Yeah. I mean, I think either way sounds viable to me. It kind of just comes down to like, what's the experience that you want to have as the creator doing it? Because like when I think about CBCs, I want to die. Like I don't want to run it. And I hate the experience as a student, which I don't know if that's the minority, but like, I feel like there comes a time where your currency is more time than it is money. And CBCs are such an inefficient way of learning, in my opinion, where like the value prop isn't just knowledge transfer into CBC. And most of the time I want the knowledge transfer more than I want anything else. And I'm put in this position where I have to now take this inefficient form of knowledge transfer because the only way it's available to me is through a CBC. To me, like it appeals in any case to have the knowledge that you put into that course into a self-paced version that's available somehow. I feel like makes sense. You see a lot of people moving towards the high ticket hybrid route. Like Ali Abdal is doing it now. Tiago Forte is doing it now. That's clear to me as a way you could go, where it's like, here's the self-paced version of both of these courses together. Here's self-paced plus, the high ticket hybrid model, or go full Wizards Guild and you get all of that. Plus you get this asynchronous direct support from me, something like that. Like all these paths seem viable to me. It's like, how do you want your business and time to look? And a little bit customer selection too, because if you are trying to work with the creators that are doing 6-figure deals, like they may feel like I feel, where they don't always want to drop into a group program to have access to you. And the people who do just need the knowledge might not be able to afford that program either.
It's interesting because I very much feel as though this is like a sweet spot, because like once you get to a certain place in your creator journey where if it's a social media creator and you've got millions of subscribers, or if you're an owned platform creator like newsletter operators, podcasters and so on, and you're getting hundreds of thousands of downloads per episode, like you almost always will like start having a team or a manager or something like that. So it's like it's the folks between, like on one tier down, basically, right, where you're still making significant revenue. It probably doesn't make sense to have a manager, and so it's like, I don't know, at least the profile of the folks who have signed up to date, that's kind of been it.
There's another stance you could take though. Like when you were describing where you think the gap in the market here is, my wife works for a community of financial advisors, and I've started talking to some financial advisors because I need some advisement on my financials.
Because you're rich now, that's why.
No.
Boom.
Oh my God. What is that? Is that a Stream Deck?
That is a Rodecaster Pro, my sir.
Damn. That is good.
You didn't know I was going to be bringing that in, did you?
I did not.
I just stuck it in.
I wish you would have also just given yourself like an applause track.
I can do that too, for sure.
Incredible. What came to mind is, historically financial advising, it's like, hey, we take a percentage of assets under management and they're incentivized in a lot of ways to recommend products to you that now they get a better cut of. But you see this rise of what's called like fee only advisors, where it's like, I'm going to give you the advice. Now my incentives aren't tied to how much you're giving me. I think you could kind of take the stance that, hey, and depending on how like provocative you want to be, you could go all the way to say, hey, managers are a bad thing for creators. Here's how that screws you. And here's why this model is better. And actually just capture that market, not think about going a step down, but saying this is a new model. And I'm going to capture a big part of the market that is working with managers right now. You could choose that customer if you wanted to. Because if you describe it as a step down, you kind of make it seem like I am one step that people graduate out of towards management, which doesn't necessarily have to be true.
That's actually a really great point, because like one thing I'm very explicit about the program is that we are not your manager. We will not get on the phone with brands for you. We're not going to manage your email inbox. Like the creator who is participating in this is comfortable doing those things, but they want someone to like proofread what they're about to send, kind of thing. So that's actually a really great point, because there are, in fact, like there are people who are participating in it who do have significant followings and income levels and all that stuff too, and yet have no interest in like having a manager. So you're right. There probably are people who would self-select even if they were kind of at that level.
Yeah, I could totally see that, as there is some avatar of creator who is at that level who feels like it's excessive to have a manager bringing them deals, and that they may have even experienced this where the deals the manager are bringing isn't even what they want, but like they see this thinly veiled, like, oh, well, that's good for the manager if I go with that opportunity, who just wants somebody who is on retainer to help do these things. It creates like new questions of capacity, and how do you build a team of people who has your knowledge that can be on your behalf? But dude, I look at what you've done in the last year and I am so envious of how good you seem to be at investing into people and building systems and like surrendering to building a larger thing. Like I have such control issues on all my stuff where I'd hold on to everything loosely, and you're like, nope, I'm going to find someone who's really good at this. I'm going to pay them what they're worth and they're going to make it awesome. And now I have the CBC that's on autopilot where we have SOPs and all the stuff is wrapped together. Like I've just watched you do that for different elements of your business over time. I have no doubt you could do the same thing with like building an army of Justin disciples of how to like do this brand stuff in a fee only way.
It's funny. So first of all, thank you. That's very kind. I don't feel like that is the case, but it's nice from the outside looking in. That
looks
feels
that way.
Like that.
Definitely looks that way. Give yourself a round of applause.
I do. Okay, there we go. Boom. There we go. How about that one? If you say anything I don't like, I'm gonna give you the boo. So I've got a lot of different ones. Don't worry.
So good.
Can we go back to the knowledge transfer thing real quick? Because this is something you're right. Like it is heavily knowledge transfer for 80%, I would say, of the CBC. And so I very much have thought like, okay, this makes sense to transition, something over into, and then maybe I figure out a way to have a live element on an ongoing basis for people who participate in that. Maybe there's like a monthly call or like, I don't know, asynchronous something. I don't know. There exists a solution probably.
That's the high ticket hybrid route where it's like, here's everything pre-recorded and we do, this asynchronous or this semi-synchronous thing a couple times a month.
And I guess my fear is that, okay, I think part of it comes from like lack of experience. I've never done webinars. I've never run like paid ads to like fill up registrations for webinars and all that stuff too. Part of that is just scary, I would say, number one, of like screwing up something that seems to be working, right? But then the other part of it is like, it feels attractive to the ongoing coaching thing feels much more scalable. This decision would be scalable. It was like, okay, I could have the evergreen thing, but the ongoing coaching, it's not just me now. It's me and other coaches. But to your point, I don't want to go I'm going to certify, 100 coaches and like all this stuff. And then now I'm managing 100 people and like, choke me, right? Like I've done that in a previous life, not 100 people, but I've managed an agency and lots of employees, and it was great, but it was super stressful, right? And so I don't want that. And so actually Jenny Blake, shout out to Jenny Blake, she has this model where she, wrote Pivot and Free Time and all this stuff too. And she trains people in her methodology, but she also does not have a team of 100. She has like 5. And so she's like, there's the difference. You don't have to scale it like crazy. Like you can just keep it small. And like that could be enough. That could be I do not want to make $100 million business. Like I definitely do not want that. But a couple $1 million business, that sounds cool, right? And so I feel like I could do that with this, having the main offer be this kind of ongoing. And it's also about who I'm serving. I know I'm kind of talking about the offer ladder because this is kind of a meta creator show, obviously, but it's very much, I'm thinking about how can I have the biggest impact for my students? And I feel as though the ongoing stuff, that I'm gravitating to that because it feels like the biggest impact on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. So is part of the scary thing of breaking this and changing it that you feel like the CBC is understood projectable revenue, that if you change this, that might go away and that feels painful?
No, because I don't feel like this is a door I can't walk back through. Like if it doesn't work, I feel like I could just, okay, if that didn't work, I'm going to go back to the CBC route. And all I would lose would be time, right?
Yeah.
And maybe cry myself to sleep for a few nights. I don't know. I just read stats around like the, completion rates of like, on-demand programs is like abysmal. And I don't want to do it just like I want people to actually learn this stuff. It's also about impact,
I think some of those stats are skewed by people who have gotten really good at coercing people to buy a thing that didn't really want to buy the thing in the first place. So like if you, depending on the system you set up, if you're not being oddly pushy and convincing people they need a thing that they don't, I don't think that's as big of a deal. Like I think those probably sink the average stats. And also most creators who have digital products, they optimize everything up to the point of purchase and then nothing afterwards. So it's like, I'm going to get you to buy, and then you made the decision and you have what you need. I gave you what I promised. Good luck. Where I think you can do a lot afterwards, even as simple as like an email sequence that you schedule out that has 4 touch points over 3 months to be like, have you gone in there? Have you done anything? I think there's basic ways to push that. I wouldn't worry about that.
Part of this fear is drawn from the experience with the on-demand course that I launched, which was just like with the CBC, it's so easy to get testimonials, dude. Like I get to know these people so well. And at the end of it, I just literally email them or DM them and be like, hey, would you make a testimonial for me? Like XYZ. And I would say I've got like a maybe 60%, 50% rate of like people sending me testimonials, like amazing ones. Right. And when I don't have that like touch point with the on-demand course, it's like the testimonials are few and far between basically, right? So it's like I extrapolate that to like people's experience actually consuming the content too,
It's possible. It is possible. But, I would argue that right now you've made that information less accessible than you probably want for a lot of the people in your audience, So like this would be a decision towards democratizing this, giving more people even the opportunity to do this. After a quick break, Justin and I explore a tiered pricing model for his cohort-based course, and later we talk about growing the coaching side of his business too. So stick around, we'll be right back. If you've been following me for a while, you know how much I believe in memberships as a product for creators like you and me. Earning an income directly from your audience is one of the most sustainable ways to become a professional creator. So I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Uscreen. Uscreen is a beautiful all-in-one platform that lets content creators earn a living from their videos online. You can host private live streams for your members, sell courses, even get your own branded TV and mobile apps. Seriously, people can watch your video content on an app on their TV just like Netflix. And the best part, that means unlocking predictable recurring revenue. With a Uscreen account, you get video hosting, an out-of-the-box website, full payment and subscription management, a lot of other built-in tools, and plenty of third-party integrations too. And Uscreen makes it easy to get set up. You get access to powerful website themes designed to monetize videos. It's a quick setup and fully brandable with no coding skills required. Just about anyone that wants to make money from their content can do it with Uscreen. It's perfect for coaches, authors, influencers, and entrepreneurs in just about any niche. Right now, Uscreen is being used by creators in fitness, education, news, music teachers, kids entertainment, and more. That includes Yoga with Adrian and Creator Now, just to name a couple. Uscreen is the platform for building a video membership site that is great for generating a sustainable income stream. If you create video content for your audience, I highly recommend checking it out. If you're interested in learning more about Uscreen, check out the link in the description.
Okay, if you were me, let's say you were me in my shoes and you've got a fully trust this guy's business with SOPs and everything, which I don't, by the way, but let's just assume. Would you keep the CBC and increase the investment, let's say? Lots of people have told me to do this. Like, hey, the ROI of your course is too crazy. Like you're paying people are investing $3,000 and they're making over the course of their entire career, they're going to make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like the ROI is just too wildly skewed versus what you just said is like making it more accessible, wrapping the $500 program with a $3,000 program, making it $2,000, like running webinars, like, and just kind of going the scale route. Like what would you do?
If it was actually me, I would get rid of the CBC because again, that makes me like want to die to think about launching it.
Pretend you were me with the soundboard.
If I'm pretending I'm you, I don't think there's any reason. Like, I think you could present to your audience, your people, hey, Brand Deal Wizard, we have 2 payment options. You can have the self-paced version for this, or you can have the CBC and have that be wildly higher priced. And I think everybody's happy because like it's going to select for the people it's going to select for. Like there are probably a lot of people who enroll in Brand Deal Wizard who are doing it in large part because they know they'll get direct access to you and the curriculum itself is secondary. I think that's also, if you are trying to go towards this asynchronous coaching being the biggest offer, I think that the CBC is probably a more clear stepping stone into that because they'll have some experience with you directly and how you respond contextually to them. So like I see that playing a part in the funnel also. Mm-hmm. But, I would err, if I'm doing CBCs, I would err on still having a self-paced version that's more accessible. Unless like I'm really afraid of that cannibalizing the revenue, but I don't think you're in that circumstance.
So like I did that. I tried that. I like between cohorts 4 and 5 on my wait list sign up email, like after you signed up for the wait list, I said, hey, by the way, if you don't want to wait, you can pay 50% and watch the replays from the last cohort. And I had 7 people. I think I was charging $2,000 at that time. And so it was $1,000 for that. And so I had like, I think I made $7,000 or so doing that. And you're right. Like there's definitely people who want that option, like for sure.
But even that, like that's watching a recording of a long thing. Whereas if you're like, you know what, I'm going to make this as easy to consume and fast and effective as possible in a produced video course, you can make it much shorter and like people would complete it at a higher rate probably.
Okay. Am I not just confusing the heck out of people who'd want to work with me of like all these different paths and all these things they could do? Like here's the on-demand, here's the CBC, here's the on-demand coaching, here's the blah, blah, blah.
I think the muddiest part is the gifted to paid versus Brand Deal Wizard. But if it's like, here's Brand Deal Wizard, there's 2 ways you can get it, self-paced or the cohort. And if you'd rather skip all of that and just have direct support from me, it's the one-on-one coaching. I wouldn't actively market like the one-on-one consulting calls that you're doing right now. That to me muddies some things. But if it's like self-paced course plus, live experience or asynchronous coaching, to me, those are pretty clearly different.
Part of me is like, maybe I just like take gifted to paid and it's like a bonus, basically like, for...
Could be.
Because there's so many of the alumni of Brand Deal Wizard have gone back and taken that course because even they're like, I know I have like 500,000 followers, but I'm still getting a bunch of free product offers, and feels like money in my inbox that I'm not converting kind of thing, I
think that's viable too. Like something that I'm going to do this year is stop actively selling a bunch of my workshops. I have like a dozen workshops that are in the lab that people can buy a la carte. I'm going to stop making those available for sale because what I'm actually finding is they are really effective at getting people to review the podcast. And I'll say, you want a free workshop? Here's the list. Review the podcast, take a screenshot, send it to me, and I'll send you a coupon code. It's really effective that way, which leads me to believe it would also be really effective as a Spark Loop incentive because it's something that you can only get through this means. Like this is a scarcity of how you get this thing. So I think if you do have something that's that valuable that you're willing to not sell anymore, I think you would be able to incentivize people to take a bunch of different types of actions that you want or use it as a bonus for, sign up in this period of time and you also get gifted to paid. I think that's highly valuable if you aren't worried about the lost revenue from just selling it directly.
I feel as though there is a very large adjacent segment of the market of aspiring creators, people interested in influencer marketing. I've had so many people take the courses or hire me who are not creators, but adjacent to the industry, whether they work at brands or they're managers or they work at agencies and they just want to understand the ecosystem better. And so I feel like there's an opportunity, and I candidly love when folks like that are in the cohort because it provides interesting and unique perspectives to the creators that are in there, right? So it's like, I don't fear at all, like there's like people, different types of people in there. I think it's a good thing, right? And so I feel as though the opportunity to get other unique, interesting people on the email list, as well as running paid ads, all that stuff, it feels like maybe a missed opportunity.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, I think it comes down to customer selection, because you're right. Like my wife runs our dog's Instagram. She purchased a membership to this thing called Insta Club Hub, and she doesn't consider herself a creator, but like she's getting free stuff sent to our house all the time now because of the dog's Instagram. And now she's seeing, seeing like the opportunity here. I'm just like gently stoking the fire. Like, yes, become the April to my Justin. But is that the person that's eventually going to become the one-to-one or the asynchronous coaching client?
That's a good point.
Is it worthwhile trying to nurture all the way there, or should you just try to capture as much market share as you can upstream?
How that hits me, it's the latter, I would say, because it's the people I enjoy working with the most, the more intermediate to advanced level creators, and the whole thing about not building a ginormous business. Yeah. I'd be happy, like if I had, I'm going to like call it right now, Jay. Okay. I think I'm going to have like 50 people, maybe 100 people in that program in like 3 years.
Oh, you can get there way sooner.
Yeah. Or like, but like, okay, maybe 2 years, whatever. Like that, if that was the business and I had like a handful of sponsorship coaches on my team helping me, I would be so happy. Like that is a life that I would be just like, boom, love it. I'm done. I don't just keep that life basically. We're
recording this on February 7th of 2023. If you set a goal for 50 people at the end of this year, you could easily do that because this is all that has to be is word of mouth. And every creator who would fall into the camp of somebody who would pay for that is in iMessage group chats with 5 other people who are in the same spot, who would do the same thing. And they're all probably using products like Carrot Financial or something, and you can go to them and work with them. Like you could do that very quickly if that's what you wanted to do and if you had the capacity to fulfill it.
Why do you make it sound so easy?
Well, because I don't have to do the work.
And because CBCs terrify you, right? So
the other thing I think about a lot though is it's really hard to serve a beginner audience and an advanced audience because advanced people just sniff out when there are beginners around like, I don't have time for this nonsense. So you kind of like preclude yourself from doing as well with an advanced customer the more you serve beginners. Even if you feel like, well, this is a whole journey and they're firewalled off over here. It's just really hard to have the upstream advanced business if you're working really hard to grow the larger, earlier stage part of it. This is something I've admired about Brennan's work for a long time. And I think he actually articulated this to me first, which was like, there's so many people who are competing for the beginner level customer. And then you get to a certain point of efficacy or self-sufficiency, and then things drop off because it's harder to teach people harder things. And often there's like a lot more nuance and context. And so people just don't do it. So there's always naturally like a gap in the marketplace there, but we are so ego driven. This is me projecting now. We're so ego driven that we want like the large vanity numbers. And we're like, well, I can't get that many people to do this thing that I'm charging 10x for. And you don't need that. You need 1/10 of the people to do this thing that you're charging 10x for. But we want 100,000 followers on this platform and these big numbers that make us look huge, And I don't know. I had to fight that back a lot.
I mean, it's the funny enough, like that was my exact strategy when I started. I was like, my CBC, I literally made a requirement that you cannot participate unless you've done at least one paid brand partnership. So like, I very much was, focused on that. I mean, I made it aspirational on purpose. I was like, okay, I'm only going to serve this like intermediate audience. And part of the reason why I did create this like earlier stage course around like gifted products and all that stuff too, is that I viewed it as like they are my future customer. It's like they are someone that I'm serving at an earlier stage of my journey. I'm not expending a lot of one-on-one type effort on that on-demand program, but they could transform into someone that I could serve very capably with some of these more advanced products or offers, right? And so I agree, but at the same time, I guess I just kind of looked at them as being earlier on the continuum.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, 100% true. And it's not impossible to do both. I just think it's really hard.
Unless you have a soundboard. Then it's totally possible.
I feel like we solved your problem.
We did not solve my problem, Jay. Damn it. Oh, I don't know what to do, Jay. I should probably just try something and give it a shot. Part of me wants to try a webinar because I've never done that. I feel like okay, here's my idea. I want to do a webinar around how to price. I literally, that is literally what week 2 of my course is in detail. And I'm literally just going to make it extremely detailed and super valuable and just this is everything I know about pricing. If you want to know more, take the course. But literally I'm going to go through, I feel like something like that would be dope. And then I don't know, there's got to be something there about, I don't know.
I like this idea. Something I've been thinking about a lot that could apply to the situation. There's a guy I met. His name is Marco. He has a channel called Whiteboard Finance.
Okay.
And his channel trailer in one of his most successful videos is called Stock Market for Beginners 2022. And it's like a 90-minute full-length course on this. And I feel like webinar is cool. You could do the webinar. And this isn't mutually exclusive. But why not just take that video, put it on YouTube, and make calls to action in that? Here's how you can work with me. Because I feel like long form videos on YouTube are kind of an open space still. If you do it well enough where you do keep people's attention throughout, it needs to move. But if you make a 90-minute video that has good retention, that thing, it will make you so much money in AdSense. Yes. But also if it's pointing back to you as the authority and there are other ways to pay you and buy things from you, that would just do so much legwork. And I talked to this guy and he's like, yeah, I basically redo that video once a year because his first version of this Stock Market for Beginners step-by-step guide was 57 minutes and it has almost 8 million views. And you can still take that same video and run a webinar on it.
The beautiful and frustrating thing about being a creator doing this stuff is there's just no right answers, no right and wrong answers. It's so many shades of gray. It's not binary. And I guess I just need to try it.
Yeah, you can test all of it.
Test it all.
Would that webinar run people to the asynchronous coaching or is it running people to the combination self-paced course?
The latter. That's what I was thinking.
So if I'm you and you think that the asynchronous coaching is the bigger opportunity, I'm focusing most of my effort there. How quickly can I turn that into a $20,000 MRR product so that I have seemingly very little risk to just screw around with everything else and burn it down, break it, build it back up if I have to. But start by giving yourself some cover by building the asynchronous coaching side of things. Because I think you can do that really quickly and that revenue is going to compound really fast.
Well, okay. What if 3 quick ideas of how you think I could build that quickly?
Go to the people that you've already worked with in that program and say, hey, do you have any friends? If you refer a friend, I'll give them $100 off their first 3 months and I'll give you $100 off your next month or something. Make some incentive where both people win.
I'm writing this down, by the way.
You can do that to the people that are in the coaching now. You could do that for everybody who's gone through Brand Deal Wizard, the CBC, run some first month promo, have them in there, get them renewing. And once they've renewed twice and seem like they're going to continue to renew, then say, here's the incentive where you can tell your friends about this. They're going to get a better deal by going through you. And it's also going to financially incentivize you in some way. And then I think just keep doing what you're doing. You show up effectively as a public loudmouth as I do in different places and just talk about this. I think this could really be a specky point of view for you to say hey, I think that there's a lot of bad actors in the world of creator managers and I've made a better model. I think that's a very pitchable idea that could get you on different channels and different publications if you wanted to lean that far into it. And if you don't lean that far into it, then you're probably not going to grow it as big as you could, obviously.
If I wanted to make some enemies amongst all the managers out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it depends on like how provocative you want to be. You don't have to, you don't have to like other them or paint them into being the enemy. You could just say like, this is a different model and maybe it's for you, maybe it's not.
Speaking of which, I literally just interviewed a manager, or not interviewed, I debated a manager on my own podcast about this very topic.
Who was the mediator?
So D, my community manager, because I didn't feel like it would be fair to be both a debatee as well as the moderator.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that's actually, the incentive idea is actually quite smart. And it's something I do with the course. Obviously, I already have the affiliate program set up, but not for the guild.
I probably wouldn't set it up as a pure affiliate in this sense, but I do think like some sort of short-term reward, meaning like, I don't think you would want to do it as a ongoing, every time somebody renews, you still get that. But I do think like having an introductory offer and then saying like okay,
1 month free type thing,
and this is also credited towards your next month. I think that's the way I would probably do this.
If you were me, how would you compensate other coaches that helped me out in the program?
It's a good question. I think it kind of comes down to, why do they want to do it? Are they doing it for the money? Are they doing it because they see it as a springboard to their own career as a coach in this way? Because it changes, how you have to compensate them. And also like how much oversight into what is that? What does your oversight look like? If you're doing the certified route, then you're probably basically franchising, Whereas in this realm, it sounds more like just contracting people that have a skill set and saying like, hey, you have 5 extra hours per week. Let me buy that. Because depending on the type of person you want, you probably don't want like the typical coach, quote unquote. You probably want someone who's like a creator who's been doing this for a long time. And you just know that they have kind of the same approach that you do. Because like QA is a big question. You want someone to come in that is pretty well aligned so that you guys aren't giving conflicting advice if you're both communicating with the same person at different times. So QA is the question. And legally, the more that you give specific direction to the contractors you employ, they actually become employees by the law and not contractors. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I to that point, like I have drawn up some like the idea would be that there'd be some sort of training, like a 1-day type idea, like here's the crash course SOP on how to, I actually already have a short list of people who have expressed interest in servicing overflow demand that I have generally. And these are people who are industry folks, not just creators. These are like friends I have who've worked at agencies, managers, all this stuff too. So like there seems to be interest in like people wanting to facilitate this type of thing, That's
interesting. It's really interesting as a value proposition to say our coaches have experience as managers. Mm-hmm. I don't know what managers do post-management, but I'd imagine some of them probably get into being a creator themselves because they're like, I want to be the guy, the girl. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I'd probably just try to do work for hire.
Okay, well, I guess we need to do a follow-up episode in a year or less than that when I hit the 50. I used to be so good about setting goals, dude. Like, but I've been treating this like so much like a skunk works that I've just been so tickled with any incremental improvement. It's like I don't even whatever. Like I'm making like $1,000 more a month, cool. Like I'm making 10,000 more, cool. It's like I don't know. I need to be better about that.
Well, I don't know. Do you? Like sometimes it's nice to have that different outlet, like playing a different role in your business. Because if you do start putting goals on it, now you're putting pressure on it and you're going to change your relation to it to some degree. But if this is truly going to become like the thing for the business, and maybe you want to push a little harder for it.
I know you asked me on here for something very different, but I'm very appreciative that we got to have this be a therapy session.
I wanted this to just be like hanging out and talking with Justin, and this was more fun to me than what I would have talked about anyway.
Well, I hope it was valuable to everyone listening too. I feel like so much of us have these like internal struggles with the structures of our businesses, and it's very difficult to articulate sometimes like what the challenges are. So it was hugely helpful to just kind of get it out of my brain. And yeah, thanks, dude.
If you want to learn more about Justin or his course, Brand Deal Wizard, you can visit his website at creatorwizard.com or find him on Twitter at JustinMooreTFam. Links to all of that are in the show notes. Thanks to Justin for being on the show. Thank you to Connor Conaboy for editing the video for this episode. Thanks to Emily Clouse for making the artwork for this episode. Thanks to Nathan Tonhunter for mixing this show, and Brian Skeel for creating our music. If you like this episode, you can tweet at jclouse and let me know. And if you really want to say thank you, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.